Good morning and welcome back to Angel's Table. I would like to welcome back Parker Matheson and Denise, my co-hosts. And I would like to welcome to the table Christian Rocket Adams. He is an actor, and Breanna Chapman, a young female actor. All right, so this is the second segment of a three-part series. The topic is sex and nudity in the film industry. The first segment was about sex and nudity from the producer, director, writer perspective, and this is from the perspective of the young actor, actress. And so, with that in mind, this is a topic that matters a lot to me because I am the mother and manager of a 20-year-old actress, and going through all the breakdowns and submitting her for roles, I've seen what's available and found that there's really quite a bit of sex and nudity or simulated sex and that sort of thing. So I know what my opinion is on that as the mother manager, but as the young female actor coming into the business, I would like to know what your perspective is on that and how it affects you trying to break into the industry.
I think that as long as a young woman is comfortable doing it, whether she's paid or not, that she should be able to do it regardless. And I don't think people should pass as much judgment as they do on actresses for doing nude scenes. Like, that tends to happen a lot. Like, they say they're a slut or that they're this way or this way just because they were nude in a scene. But it can be very artful, and it's the human body. It's a natural thing that everybody does, and I think that
right.
It should be more accepted.
Right. Well, I think there's a bigger group of people that do feel like that it is to them an art form, and they're comfortable expressing themselves, and they're comfortable in a sex scene or in nudity. And I think more and more young actors feel that way. I can only speak for myself as someone who's older, and I know that.
I'm sure my mother feels a different way than I do.
Yeah, she might. I mean, I know that when I look at a movie or a TV show, an HBO show, and you see these young women and they're standing there naked, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a mom. All I can see is this young female, someone's daughter. So that's how I came to that. And I really honestly don't remember how I felt before I had a daughter who was in the industry. I'm sure I would change my perspective greatly. But do you feel that it's hard to break in if you're not open to that? I mean, like, regardless of being comfortable or not, do you feel like there are enough roles out there that don't require that?
I do feel that way.
Okay.
Yes, I haven't come across a lot of auditions that I've received that have required any nudity whatsoever or any sex scenes.
No?
No.
I wonder if it's different here. My daughter is in New York, and it seems like almost 90% is sex and nudity. So there's a smaller and smaller percentage of things that I can submit her for. And she doesn't want to do it. She's not comfortable with it. I don't know that she ever wants to do it. You know,
it definitely opens a lot more doors when you are willing to do more things.
Right. Now, as a male actor, how do you feel about that?
Well, I haven't had to experience that just yet, although I did go to audition for a film a couple weeks ago where they explained that the main character, or one of the main characters, has a scene where she's being tortured and she's nude and she's kind of like tied up or something. It's kind of like, almost pornography type or something like that, kind of abusive and things of that nature. And I was kind of uncomfortable auditioning for just one of those parts. I'm like, let me think about this. Is it paid? So I had to think about that, but I could just imagine how other people, go through those notions or whatever, just watching other films. Like, I seen Denzel Washington's American Gangster, and there's a scene where they got some females who
cutting coke.
Yep, coke scene. One of them gets shot, so I'm like, man, that's 2 times she's going through the whole, brutality or whatever, because I can imagine, how they feel walking around being naked and then being involved in a violent scene where you know, you're getting shot, so all that other stuff happening, and just, you know, so many of these pictures. I think about that often. I just saw Straight Outta Compton, and there's a scene where they're in a hotel. And I'm like, man, these ladies, I hope they're getting paid for some of that stuff, but it depends on who the actor is and what the project is about. And
Right.
If it's something that they're comfortable doing, then
Right. Well, what from a male perspective? Because I hadn't really started thinking about that of how many breakdowns are for the male character being naked.
Well, that would be an entirely different thing, because you want to consider a man naked just from the torso up. They'd just be not wearing a shirt, and so, but any nudity below the waist is kind of on the same level, both male and female.
It's almost non-existent for males. Like say Game of Thrones, for instance, there's 50 naked women in the series and like 5 naked men. Well, and I think it makes sense. It's just not the same level.
Right.
You know, it's
Right, exactly. I mean,
I think that it gets back to what we were talking in the previous segment. If it makes sense within the context of the story, then it's not necessarily, then it becomes artful versus something that's just done and it's kind of like, what was that for?
well,
right.
but I think if like I was given a role, it's like you need to be nude for it, I'd be like, okay.
So you would be okay with that?
Yeah, I don't just like whatever. So for that reason, I kind of think, like women should be able to do it the same way if they like, you know.
But I don't think that it's not that they can. I think that there's a difference from a socialization standpoint from the beginning. I mean, just go to the restrooms. You know, women have cubicles.
And
Men are all just
standing
standing up there,
Yes.
you know, and so it's
That is
just
a good point,
it's really different.
But to be fair, when we do, we still have the stalls also. But yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
So that being said, what minimum would you take to?
I mean, I probably wouldn't take much. It's
This is
like,
something I didn't know about my own
I
child.
just be like, we need to be naked this year. It's like,
What
okay.
he wants to do is dig.
No, I don't want to do nudes. I just
No, I
don't
know.
particularly care. It's
Well, what
like,
about you? Do
it's-
you
it's a
would
certain-
you
That hard to
take?
talk you
Would you
into
take
it.
nudity or sex scene?
it has to be the right situation.
Yeah.
Like that actress, if she's comfortable with it, then eventually I'll be comfortable with it.
I mean,
I'll be okay.
I think I'd be much more uncomfortable with it if it was a sex scene than if it was just like me naked, like Forgetting Sarah Marshall with Jason
seen
Segel, like that. I'd do that, no problem. I don't care. I'll just, it's not a big deal at all. Whereas the sex scenes, not that it'd be something I wouldn't want to have on film. It'd just be a more difficult thing to do because it's kind of like an awkwardly like.
Yeah, because it's very intimate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's very intimate. So yeah, and I don't know, and I guess. Well, I don't know that I would ever, even if I was younger, had considered that. I don't know. Would you ever? How would you feel about taking an acting role with nudity or sex?
That's a good question.
Going back to Martin Scorsese, if he offered you a role.
Well, number one, that wouldn't happen.
You never know.
No, I mean the nudity part is no. But the thing about it too is, when they talk about female empowerment versus being confident, body confident, is something that when I was younger I didn't know I had a reason to be, and now that I'm older, no. So I don't know. I don't think that I probably wouldn't have, because things have the standards have changed. It's become more commonplace than it was when I was growing up.
Right.
So
Very,
it's a
very true.
big difference.
Right. Do you feel as young actors that it's something that's just sort of more or less not expected, but
It's done
there.
as a thing.
yeah, so that it's just part of the acting process as
Yes,
opposed to
I
not?
believe a lot of things are they're overly sexualized.
Right.
So I would think, yeah, half of the industry would.
Yeah, so do you feel like if you are on the other side of that you don't really want to do film and nudity, do you think that you're going to have, and I kind of get that the Detroit area has less nudity and sex in their projects
Yeah,
than
like out
what
there
we're
in-
experiencing in New
Yeah.
York and
LA,
Right.
It's more so expanded. Like
Right.
you can have a producer or director, whether he seems 100% legit or not, offer you a role of that magnitude, and you have to really think about it. So it depends on the situation.
right.
Me personally, I wouldn't do it unless it was for a good amount of money or for a big project.
Right, yeah. I know with my daughter, she's been offered roles in 2 different films, and both of them required sex and nudity. And one of them, she had actually auditioned for a different role, and they came back and offered her another one, and so I went through the script and read the scene, and it was like, oh my gosh, there's just no way. And I said to her, I said no on this, and then I said, but it's really your job, your body, it's up to you to really decide. And I sort of started to explain what the sex scene was. She's like, just stop, please don't even tell me, I don't even want to know. And she said, because it wasn't a very pleasant scene. But it was a movie that she really wanted to be a part of, so it was really disappointing because, you know, you audition and it's like, wow, this is great, there are named actors in this, and I'm being offered a role, and then you go through the script and go, but I just can't do this.
Yeah,
This
I
isn't-
feel like that probably does happen a lot.
Yeah. But now, we were talking about this in the other segment too, about feeling like if you feel like this is your chance and you're never going to get another chance, do you think that you might take
That there's some pressure.
Yeah.
You would
And then you
definitely
might
take more
take it and then-
consideration.
Yeah, but then do you think that there are regrets later if it's not really what's in your heart to do and you're just feeling like you're trying to go along with what is expected?
Well, if I'm counting money, then that's a whole afterthought.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, the other thing is, again, everything's forever. It's not like there are just a few videos out there, you know. It's digital, and so
It is.
it's going to be everywhere. So you just have to decide, okay, am I comfortable with anybody being able to just look at my body? Because
Right.
that's basically what it is.
With the internet,
Mhm.
It's
how
one
fast
thing-
things spread.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
Right.
one thing to do the scene, but then you have to think about it being more expanded, you know, with YouTube and Vimeo and,
Mhm.
Right.
and people having access to watching those videos.
Mhm.
So that's another thing that you totally have to look at.
Right. Now, I actually want to ask you about HBO because there's not a show there that there's not.
I love HBO.
Okay. So, and would it be easier to say yes to one of those shows?
Definitely. Say we're
Even-
Game of Thrones, yes, instantly.
Instantly?
Yes.
Okay. And you would
I
have
feel like it's done tastefully on Game of Thrones too, and they're like strong, powerful women, and I think that it has a point to it most of the time.
And
And
the
I-
other thing is that it's in the book. You know, I mean, they're
Mhm.
not just
Right.
They're not just shoehorning.
yeah, they're not
Yes.
throwing stuff in. It's in the books. You know,
Exactly.
so
Right.
I was thrilled when I found out that they were going to make those into
Yeah.
films, and they did a good job.
You read them
Yeah.
beforehand?
Oh yeah.
Cool.
So it's nice
Science
to be a
fiction,
Game of Thrones
fantasy
fan.
For me, if I'm being offered a part on Ballers, and I get to go down there to Miami or somewhere in Florida and shoot, it wouldn't take me very long to think about. I would say, sure. I mean, this is a once in a lifetime
Yeah.
opportunity, so you really have to think about that.
Yeah. Okay.
I would think that there would be certain projects for everybody that they would be like, yes, for sure, I would do it for that.
Mm-hmm.
It would just have to be the right role for the right person.
Right. I can see, gradually easing into some of these scenes, but when it's, like for someone starting out, to me that I do worry about especially young women,
Right.
taking a role because they think this is how they're going to get into the industry and there's no way of doing it. I mean, I had somebody tear me apart because I asked if there was nudity in the film, and they was like, all actors have to show their skin. That's
Really?
just, and I was like, what?
No, they don't.
I know, and I'm thinking, well, that might be what you think, but I'm going to have to figure out how to make it work for my daughter without doing that. And when she is at a point where she feels like she can make the decision more comfortably. That's, you know, it is her body, it is her career, you know, but I know right now that if she felt like she should do it, I think she would regret it later, just, you know, knowing what her personality is. And I do, to some extent, worry about young women feeling like the societal thing is to just go along with it, you know, going back to that female empowerment
Like it's
thing.
a necessity.
Right, and that it may not, that like our society is going toward that kind of a feel, but maybe, you know, at home you don't really feel that way, but you're trying to be connected with the contemporary mindset.
Well, and then the other part of that is when you look at foreign films, and it's part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not done just because, okay, we got to have this many minutes of boobs on you know, in this film in order for it to sell.
Right.
Because it's part of the story.
Right.
And then it doesn't seem odd. I think I mentioned to you, I had this movie that I like, I had recommended to some friends. And so they were there, and I hadn't even noticed the fact that the first scene took place in a brothel and there was nudity and everything. I didn't notice because it was part of the story. And
Yeah.
Right.
and then when they were sitting there and I saw that they were really uncomfortable, then it's like, okay, not a good idea. But you know, it just depends. If it's like one of my favorite Japanese movies, and so I just didn't think about it.
Right. Well, I know from that viewer perspective, I'm getting a little more comfortable, but I don't know that I wasn't before, but when you are trying to watch anything with your children, and there's sex and nudity and everything, and you're just sort of like, do I watch? Do I leave the room? So, but now that's going into the third segment, so I will, you know, stop there. I really appreciate you both joining us today.
Thank you
and
so much for
your
having me.
perspective.
Pleasure.
If
Yes.
you would like to share with us what your upcoming projects are and where
Oh, of course. I'm on
where people
YouTube.
can look for you.
Yes, I'm on YouTube. You can type in my name, Cristen, Cristen, Rocket Adams. Shout out to my man Tony. We're both connected on there. You know, we're trying to keep the comedy thing going. I am
Tony
on,
the cameraman.
yes, and I am on Facebook, facebook.com/Christian Rocket Adams fan page. And you can also find me on LinkedIn under the same format.
Great. And then
I'll be in an upcoming movie called Parents' Worst Nightmare. It should be releasing later this year, around September or so. And I'm on Facebook, Breanna Chapman, Breanna. And I was also in Stay. I'm not sure when that's supposed to come out yet, but
that's still in post-production,
yes.
correct?
That's
Or it's
the-
actually still in production.
Yes.
Right, okay. So we will look for you in that, and you're also in Stay.
Yes, and I just did Caitlin's other project, A Guide to Killing Your Exes.
Okay.
And I don't
Can't wait to see
necessarily,
that.
I don't necessarily plug background stuff, but I do have a background part in Batman Superman. I just want to put that out.
Awesome.
Can't ignore that. You
Yay,
know?
no, I
Can't
think
ignore
that's
that.
I would have said that first.
Yeah. Can't ignore that. So.
All right, and Denise, I know that you're working on a couple projects. Do you want to?
I'm in a play called Low Hanging Fruit that opens March 3rd at the Bowl Family Theater downtown. Runs March 3rd through the 20th. And it's highlighting the plight of homeless female veterans. And there are a lot of fundraisers and talkbacks that are associated with that. And I'm in a film, Pope, that will be released sometime this year. I think it's October. And I did an episode of Adventures in Speed Dating. It's an Amazon series.
Oh, you've had a lot of projects. Well, thank you for being part of this one.
Thank you
So,
for inviting
and
me.
do you want to talk about your project, even though you can't really talk about it yet?
No, I do not.
Parker and I are working on a project together, but
It's early on.
it's early, so we're not really talking about that one. And Christian made a shout out to Tony Tail, who is our cameraman, producer. And thank you all for joining us, and come back for the third segment. Thank you.